My name is Nick B, and let's get into this week's futures overview. Starting with the Forex economic calendar. Monday, we have Labor Day. Tuesday, ISM manufacturing PMI at 10 a.m. EST. Wednesday, JOLTS job openings at 10 a.m. EST. Thursday, ADP non-farm employment change and unemployment claims at 8 a.m. And then we have ISM services PMI at 10 a.m. too. And then finishing off Friday with NFP. All right, it's going to be a short, but it's going to be a busy week, and we're getting very close to finally getting a move, I say. With the type of reaction we had into the end of the week last week, I say we're primed to go higher. And let me pull up let's start with ES. And let's go ahead and pull it up on the daily. Same zone that we've been talking about for the last few weeks. The resistance level of 5670, and then your floor at 5582, which we are way above 5600, 5630, which was the second lower high, indicating a trend reversal. So we're very close to breaking out. I say the moment we get above 5670, you're most likely going to head towards 5680, 5700 psychologically. Get us above that, we're going to see the all-time highs of 5720, and it could be this week. Now, the only downside well, it's not the only downside, but to see downside, get me below 5600, and if price ends up breaking back below, I would say 5580, it's going to expose us to the 20-day on the daily 5560, 65, and a break below that, we're definitely going to be heading down towards 5500 again, possibly even very possible maybe we see 5400, but right now I do not see that as the most feasible possibility. I believe the scenarios are all stemming to the upside, and we'll be able to see how the S&P 500 ES is in the lead with that. We're definitely outperforming the growth sector. And we'll take a look at the Russell too, but let's zoom it in a little bit on the 4 hour. Okay, so look at this. This is just a big nasty range, 5580 all the way to 5670, about a 90-point range. We're very close to breaking out. Now, are we open yet? No, 2 minutes from open. Depending on where we open, 56, 56. All right. All right, we'll see. But I don't want to make the quick decision that either into tonight's overnight or maybe even Monday, because it's going to be a half day. Do I really want to execute? I don't trust it. I have a dirty feeling they're going to play a little game here, and then come around Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe we should see the move. But that's also a poor judgment, I will say, because that kind of falls into a timing category. Uh, I guess we'll just have to set our alerts at 5670. I would put the stop at 5650 most likely. And our target is really 5720. Now that would be a solid swing. Because again, I don't want to time this price action. But other than that, I really can't see anything else to break down on ES, what it would do. I could bring this down to the 1 hour. But again, the 1 hour is not telling me anything we haven't identified on the higher time frames. Let me see. Oops. It has a mind of its own. Yeah, I can't quite. This is chop. I mean, we're just close to breaking out. Gotta take that long at 5670. Gotta. But at the same time, it has to be a swing. I'm not gonna rush it. But enough of that. I got hung up on the ES a little too long. Let's go to NQ, the star of the show. All right. Let's go on the daily. Fix this up. And what do we see on the daily? Now, NQ had a little bit more of an aggressive move than ES to the downside, and we're still kind of recovering. The second lower high on NQ is 20,100. In reference on ES, that second lower high was 5630. So we have quite a ways away to go. And I do say, as long as ES maintains its area where it's at right now, and as long as the fundamentals, the red label news that we have coming up, isn't too impactful, too negative to the downside. Again, I can't account for that. I'm leaning towards the probabilities this week. We at least end up at the second lower high of 20,100, get us above that, and it's going to be a straight shot to 20,200. We have a middle ground of 20,370, 350 area. We might run into a little resistance above 20,350, 370. You're really going to 500, and the main target, especially as long as price holds 20,100, the main target on Nasdaq is going to be 20,600, 20,700. Above those areas, it's going to get choppy, possibly a little bit, unless we have some kind of sharp momentum breakthrough, because above 20,600, our next resistance really is 20,800. Get us above 20,800, we will see all-time highs. Now let's talk about downside. What is the big resistance level that we've been knocking on for the last week, last 2 weeks, I would say? That would be 19,700. 19,720 more or less, that was our lower high, our main lower high, that when we broke above it, price gave the impression that it was going to go for the second lower high of 20,100, but we failed to maintain 20,000 as a support, and then you had this big retracement back down towards 19,140. It was beautiful. It was perfect. Historically, 8 days in a row, NASDAQ kept rising. I think this was a perfect retest to get everyone's orders and supports retested right before it kind of takes off here. So let's see, did we open yet? Yes, we opened. Okay, looks like we have a limit up. We're at 19,624. I was also going to say if 19,630 breaks, I would be looking at 19,700, but really again, 19,720, that's our main resistance. Get us above 19,720 and we can work our way up to 19,850, and then above 19,850, we're really looking at 20,000. Get us above 20,000, we're going to have room to come up towards 20,100. Now, the floor, though, which we cannot deny again, I have to just point it out for myself, is going to be 20,000, 25, and 19,140. So let's say we get jammed up in this area here for the next few weeks. Let's say we don't break out, we don't break down, we're in this area. For us to get the next trend in direction for price, it's either going to be a breakout of 20,025. That's the safer play here, or we're going to break below 19,140, and below that, really below 19,000, that's going to expose us all the way down to possibly seeing 18,700, 18,600. Again, that's not something I'm focusing too much on. It's just a possibility, a possible scenarios, but I can't wrap my mind around why it would aggressively do that, other than maybe retest some supports that we broke out of, like we did on the recent run up. If you guys remember, 19,240 was a massive resistance level for price for a little bit, but after we had a news candle come out, we just soared right past that level and never looked back. So this was, I think, a healthy retest of it, and we should be on our way back. Again, in correlation with ES, mind you, ES is above its second lower high. NQ has yet to even see it. So I think we're coming up on that soon. Break this down to the 4 hour. It's going to give us a closer look at a short-term trend. Something we can identify here is lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and now we're kind of figuring things out here. So the sand in the line, well, the line of the sand support is 19,700. I wouldn't mind a long at 19,720 to target 19,850. Above 19,850, you're going to see 19,900, but really 20,000, 20,020 is your main target to the upside. And your stop really above, if you enter at 19,720, your stop should be slightly below, I would say 19,700. Light risk for possible reward here. And the reason I say light risk here is because at the end of the day, The floor is 20,020 and 19,140. I could feel a lot more confident going long at 20,020, and I'll put my stop loss maybe at 19,995 or 990. But the upside to it is I'm looking at 80 points to the upside minimum. Not to mention possibly even 160. And the reason I say that is because above the lower high of 20,100, really, you also have some resistance at 20,170 roughly. Get us above that area, 20,200 comes into play. And if we can see price is respecting and can hold above 20,200, you'll get a continuation. Something we can also plot here from the 4 hour is your Fibonacci retracement. I could do that from 20,983 down to 17,351 is what it was. And we'll take a look at exactly what levels it painted for us here. My bad, it's my OCD. It has to be the numbers 8375. Okay. Now, okay. Oh, well, would you look at that? All right. So, we've retraced majority of this correction, got above 38.2, which was our 18,738. Then we have our 50% retracement at 19,167, and holy heck, look what the Fibonacci retracement revealed to us. What we plotted to our naked eye was the bottom for last week, 19,167. So the fact that we could not close below that level and we managed to get above 61.8% retracement, I smell room for more upside. If you're a savage and if you're thinking about, holding on to a little bit of a longer dated position, again, you can go long at 19,700, but your stop must remain at 19,590 at least until price can show you that it can get to 19,800. Once it gets to 19,800, you can consider moving those stops to protect that position. But again, that's something I'm treading on lightly at the moment. Um, we'll see what we get in the moment, depending on momentum, and if there's a reason to enter a setup, we'll do it. But for now, those are just the scenarios we're looking at and the possibilities that I I'm looking forward to. I say higher, but that again, that's the perma-bull in me. Let's take a look at Russell. Okay, 22. Okay, okay. So the Russell's been kind of silently grinding its way higher. Let's expand it a bit and see what happened. Okay, so earlier this year, we managed to get to the last lower high before we could stem higher. You have a little bit of resistance over here at 23.35, 23.40. No, well, 23.35. Okay, so that's going to be our main objective. But before we get into that, as always, let's identify what is the floor price is in now. And the floor that I see price between is really from the highs and the session lows here. Perfectly, price came down near the 20-day EMA of 2180, which was a beautiful breakout and a retest. So as long as we hold above 2180, we have the potential to keep going higher. But the only kind of confirmation towards that upside is going to be 2250. Get us above 2250 on the Russell this week. We will very possibly see 2280. I remember that as a significant resistance and a support level, and 2300. Ultimately, get us above 2320. You will see 2335. Above 2335. I mean, Russell sometimes likes to just go, so it might just take off towards 2400, 2460, and never look back. And I believe that's really going to unfold the minute we get those rate cuts. Ideally, if they could be 50 BPS for the month, that would be ideal. If not, whatever, so be it. But I think that's going to be the golden child that's going to run up here, Russell. So the limit order that I would place is 2250, and a reasonable support, well, really is where we opened up right now. And the reason I say that is we kind of stuttered in this area for the last 3 days last week. So if that can hold and if we can clear that higher, I feel that'd be a reasonable stop loss to have, because ideally your next target is 2280 on the conservative side, but you're really looking at 2300 as your target to the upside above 2250. In terms of downside, 2180 has to break down. 2180 breaks down, you're coming down to retest 2170, 2140, 2100. Below that, it's over. But again, that's just, I have to talk about the downside scenarios. I can't be ignorant to that. But I will say I am definitely leaning towards more upside, and I kind of want to say confidently that I think regardless of, well, I think, but I'll say that regardless of the news this week, I say that we'll end up higher. And that's going to spark off that seasonality into September. We will be a little more slower, a little more cautious, definitely into the next few weeks of September. It's not always the funnest month, if you will. Funnest, not even a word. BTC, we could take a look at that. So the thing with BTC, I hate looking at it in terms of day trading. I'm kind of someone who holds this stuff, and it's like from my kids' kids, so it's like something that's gonna be years and years until it unfolds and actually plays out. The problem, I think, and I think this is gonna be have to be saved for a different time, is that supply is going to be controlled and manipulated by the big institutions that are grabbing up the supply. Every time throughout these cycles, you got retail panicking when we pull back 82 to 88% of the cryptocurrency run up. You got retail that panics after, or the dumb investors after, and they get rid of their market share, and then these institutions come in and pick it up. Do I think it bounces? Yes, I do. I think into 2025, I think that's when it's going to get its real, true time to shine. Um, Ideally, I want to say it'd be wonderful if, equities are above their all-time highs into November, October, November area. ES and NQ at, let's say, 21,000, NQ at 21, above 21,000, and ES above, ideally 5,800. I think that Bitcoin is going to follow suit into the next year. Usually, that's what I've noticed with these cycles. Crypto kind of just follows along after stocks have a really strong performance here, especially when we're making new all-time highs. But that's coming. That's something very long term, and I don't look to day trade BTC or Ethereum. That's stuff that I love the idea of dollar cost averaging. I think that's the ideal approach to crypto like this into long term. But with that said, I hope you have a great trading week ahead. That's what we're looking at, and that's all she wrote. Cheers.